If you're starting to feel like, help, my email list is too small, then you want to tune in to this week's episode of ACC TV, where I'm going to teach you how to launch your online course to warm subscribers, but why it isn't important that you have thousands and thousands of people on your email list when you first get started. So let's dive into this week's episode. In this week's episode of ACC TV, we're going to address the myth that you have to have a huge email list and a huge following to launch your course. I'm Elisa Connor, and I am CEO and founder of Elisa Connor Consulting, and I help course creators launch and sell their online courses so that they can generate more revenue, create impact, and most of all, leave a legacy behind that makes them proud and excited. We are going to dive into the 3 top things you can do to ensure that you have a successful course launch. But there's also a bonus at the end. So if you stick around till the end, you don't want to miss that bonus. It's going to be a key component. So let's dive into number 1. Number 1 is, what's the difference between warm and cold subscribers? Now, your email list, is a very, very powerful tool. If you haven't started building your email list, get going on it quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but I also went over some really key factors in last week's video when I talked about the 3 most critical lead magnets for course creators. So you can check that video out. I'll link it in the notes below. But warm versus cold subscribers. So a lot of times you will have people that you add to your email list from events, from speaking, from various marketing activities that you would do. But what happens is you put them on your list and then crickets. They never hear from you again. Those people would be considered cold email subscribers, whereas warm email subscribers are somebody that has just signed on, they're super excited about what you're talking about, you're staying in touch with them, and they're nurturing them through the sales funnel. So when you have a big list sometimes, or you have a big following on social media, it is much easier to fall into the cold subscriber category because you're so busy building that following, building that email list, that you're not keeping in touch with the people that have already signed up. And what happens is that deteriorates the relationship. Think of email list subscribers as people, because they are people. And when we treat them like a number, they feel like a number. And so when we start to treat them like a person and we send them a conversational email on a regular basis, checking in, how are they doing, giving them a tip, they are going to stay engaged. Wouldn't you stay engaged? Rather than just a conversation like, here's your free stuff, and then nothing ever again. And then you pick up to try and sell your course or another product or service, and they're like, I'm not interested, talk to the hand, I haven't heard from you in 6 or 9 months. You've probably had it happen to you. I know I've had it happen to me, and it's frustrating from the end user perspective. That's part of your customer journey. That's something I talk about in the Course Breakthrough Academy at length. When we filter out the customer journey and we know exactly where they're going and what actions they're needing to take to get the results that they want, we can then fill in the gap with what we're offering as a product or service. So the other component is that you will have these big list builders, and I'm sure if you have been on social media platform for a long time, you've had these people message you, hey, I'm going to grow your following by 100,000 people in 4 days. Well, that's great. However, that 100,000 people may not be an ideal client. They may never buy from me. So then they're taking up room either on my email list or in my social network where somebody else that could be a potential client should be. This is really frustrating, especially if they're an email subscriber and you've just paid somebody to up your email subscription list, or you've bought a list, because now you're paying for people that don't even want to be there. You're annoyed, you get higher spam, people reporting you for spam, and it's just overall bad news. You don't want to do it. You don't want to have a bunch of people on your list. Or another thing that I see happen with clients is that they've built a huge email list and then they totally change the way they're doing business. And the people that were on their list before are like, this doesn't fit me anymore. I don't want to be on the list. And so you need to be aware that you're building a list that is not only highly interested in what you do, but that they are your target audience, meaning that they will potentially purchase from you in the future. And The last thing that happens in this area is that people that are wanting to launch their course have no list. And they're like, I don't have any list. I don't know how to grow it. I don't know where to start. All I've been doing is creating this course. And this is a really big problem, because if you don't have somebody to purchase the course, or you don't have somebody that actually wants the course, eek, you just spent a lot of time and money and energy on something that nobody will probably ever want or buy. And I hate when that happens for my course creators. So this is something that I definitely talk about in a free download that I just created for you guys, which is the five steps to creating and successfully launching your online course. I'll put the link below in this video if you want to go ahead and grab that as well. So let's hop into tip number 2. To grow your email list, you need to create a lead magnet, or a freebie, as I like to refer to it, that people actually want. If you create a lead magnet or a freebie that you're just like, oh, this is a great idea, I came up with this overnight, and it's not something that people want, you're going to have a really hard time getting them to invest with their name and email address to download that. So what's the best way for you to go out and capture that information? Number 1, you can poll your people. If you don't have people, go find some people. There are people all over the internet. There are groups. There are different posts you can create on social media. You can actually create a poll. One of my favorite and most interactive posts on LinkedIn actually is polls. People love to take polls. So just get creative. How can you reach out and just get some input, even if it's from 5, 10, or 20 people? You've got to get some input on what their problem is so that you can solve it with your lead magnet. Otherwise, you're just creating stuff and you're just putting it out, creating, and you're going to get creative burnout. There's no doubt about it. I've been on that hamster wheel, and let me tell you, it sucks, and you don't want to be there. When you're creating that lead magnet, the most important component of that lead magnet is that you give your subscriber a quick win, meaning you help them get traction in an area that they're struggling with. I've had so many people that they're like, here's your free lead magnet, and it's just like a bunch of gibberish that is meaningless. It's not helpful at all. Whereas you could create a lead magnet that actually gives them competent and useful information that's going to get them at least one step into the process of solving their problem. It doesn't mean you have to go in and solve the entire problem, but it does mean you can give them some advice that's going to help them get traction, get to know you, and understand that you are in the game to help them. So that's tip number 2, create a worthwhile lead magnet that people actually want. Tip number 3 is you got to stay in touch. Otherwise, it's like when you walk in to a coffee shop and you order and the barista just looks at you and looks past you and gets the next person's order. People expect a conversation. So when you just deliver one email, here's your free download, which I see happen all the time, and drop the conversation, that's not building or nurturing a relationship. Sales are built on relationships. I don't care if you're doing completely online business, or if you are doing offline and online business, or if you have a brick and mortar. You have to build a relationship with your customers. It is even more critical now with so much competition on the internet that you're building those relationships. So think about how that looks for you. A lot of times what I will see as a mistake with course creators is that they will put out their freebie and then this huge amount of time goes by while they're creating their course and they don't do either 1, any marketing, or 2, any email nurturing. Then they go back to those people, and some people might have signed up a couple days ago. Some people might have signed up 3 months ago. In the meantime, they haven't sent them any emails, and people are like, and now you're going to sell me stuff? It's the equivalent of walking onto a used car lot. Nobody likes that feeling. It feels gross. You haven't earned the right to sell them your course because you left them hanging. So it's really important that you get into the habit of weekly communication with these people. And I highly recommend weekly. I know that there's people out there that do it with less traction, but as a new course creator and somebody that doesn't have a big audience, it's a really good idea for you to stay in front of them and stay top of mind. A weekly email blast, which doesn't have to be complicated, is a great way to do that. So don't be afraid to give them a little bit more love than you think you need to, because as you're nurturing and building that relationship, they're going to get to know you. They're going to realize, the value that you bring to the table. They're either going to opt in or opt out. And one of the things that I talk about in the Course Breakthrough Academy is that you are building a funnel, which looks like an upside down triangle. And it's okay if people fall out of the funnel because they're not your ideal client. So just be cognizant of who is in your list, how you're taking care of them. And then for the love of Pete, this is another problem area I see, is don't forget to ask for the sale. So it definitely is a ABC relationship, which is something I teach in the Course Breakthrough Academy, which is you have to attract your audience, you have to build a relationship with them, and then you have to convert them into a customer. They will never become a customer if we forget to ask for the sale. So that is tip number 3. You've got to stay in touch. And your bonus tip, I know you're waiting for it. Your bonus tip. This is something that a lot of my clients, when I started working with them, had no idea they could do this. It is not only okay, it is really important that you do a regular list scrub. So what does that mean? So you have a bunch of people on your email list, and say you have only about a 10% open rate or less. There's a bunch of people on your list that are never even opening your email. So you've got to somehow scrub those people out and not have them on your list, because one, you're showing up in their email and you're probably either going to promotions or spam, and that's not good for your overall email reputation. But it also means that they're not your ideal client. So let's just cut bait and move on, or whatever they say. Because you have other people that need to come into that space. And when we try to hold on to things like this, how can you get anything else? You can't. Your hands are tied. So when you open that up and you make the space for new people to show up, those people will show up. Doing a list scrub is something else I talk about in the Course Breakthrough Academy. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link below. The enrollment for that actually opens up tomorrow. So I'm super excited about that. So that's what I have for you today, is the 3 steps in your bonus. Number 1, make sure that you're launching to a list of warm subscribers that are actually interested in hearing from you. Number 2, create a lead magnet that people actually want so you can build that list of warm subscribers. And number 3, stay in contact so that you have a list of warm subscribers, because they won't be warm if you forget about them. And then last but not least, don't forget that it's okay and encouraged to do a regular list cleanup. So either 3 months or 6 months, do a list cleanup and just clear out the people that are not interested in hearing from you anymore. And you can give them the opportunity to stay on the list. So if you are interested in some assistance in getting your course in front of the right people at the right time, consider checking out the Course Breakthrough Academy. As I said, it launches tomorrow. You can go find out more with the link below, and I will see you next week. In the meantime, take care and be well.